This is Natasha Pellick. I'm coming at you from the Daylight Studios in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I'm really happy to introduce these two people. They've been in my life for many, many years, and we've had the pleasure of doing a couple different projects together over these years. We got Truth Now. What's up?
Yo, hi.
And we got Trek.
What's going on, y'all? What's going on, people? Thank you.
So between the three of us, we've been discussing a couple different issues. A lot of different conversations have been going on online. Of course, we've seen a lot of things on the news that have been going on that are controversial, a little bit confusing, a lot of chaos, and with compounding different issues that start with, everything from the pandemic all the way down to what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement. And so a lot of issues have been coming up since then. And as I put this out there, I had said, wait, hey, this year started off with Tiger King, and now we're dealing with a whole lot of other issues. Like, everyone was just chilling for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It seems like with the whole Tiger King thing it's funny you said that, because a lot of people were going crazy over the show, and I seen the flyer, I saw the posters, I'm like, what the heck is this dude with these tigers? And then I find out what it is. I find out it's a #1 documentary on Netflix and all this, that, and the third. And then I did the background story into the guy, and it's like, this guy had a crazy life. And it's like, I think of people like Monique, the comedian that was slighted by Netflix, how she was trying to fight for equality. She had all her specials, and she couldn't get the economic equality that her other comedians have got. And then they make this guy #1 documentary. And then when you do the research, the guy was, I'm not saying anything wrong with meth heads, but he was like coaxing young boys to be his lovers, and then married two of them. And so these are the people they push up to the top, but then other people get demonized. It's like, I just don't get it. But this guy has a #1 documentary. He's still in jail, arguably, but Monique can't even get a show. Then you wonder why people are out there marching for justice. That may be apples and oranges, but I see why people get upset. But I don't know how you feel about that, Truth, but you can chime in.
I mean, it's pretty common. I didn't watch the documentary or anything like that, but I want to, just because I know everybody's referencing it, or at least they were when that was what was going on. I feel like Netflix is really, really interesting because you have basically one of the biggest corporations, and in a way, it's like borders on being like the most progressive corporation. This is not to say that I think that everything that progressives think is right, but I do think progress is what we need. And so when people get thrown into these labels of Netflix or progress, or what does it mean? That's why I think someone like Dave Chappelle is so important to look at. Really, anyone who is becoming at that level, there is an agenda attached to it, whether it's a public agenda or a double agenda or even more. So I'm open to looking at all of the circus freaks and these people that are also happen to be billionaires, and where those lines meet, where you can become just crazy enough to sell that story, and then you're in the club just off of how crazy are you, how much jail time did you not do, how much jail time did you do because now you're impressive, because jail's hard. There's all these different places where we see, the stories converge, and then people choosing, choose your own adventure, right? What do you make of this shit? So I'll leave it there.
Well said. It's funny you mentioned Dave Chappelle, because I watched that special. I'm like, man, I got halfway through. I was like, this isn't really funny. Then I realized it wasn't supposed to be funny. And then I realized the genius of it. And how it's not funny, but it is comical. And that's what I see the genius in Dave Chappelle. You know what I mean? And it's like, for him to say he was pulled over by the same cop that killed who's the guy? Who's the guy that was recently killed? Anyway,
George Floyd
was stopped by this cop. I think the guy who actually killed Shaven. He was stopped by Shaven, I believe. The guy who killed George Floyd. And he was just quoted that, if you listen to the special, he goes, yeah, I got pulled over by the same cop that killed George Floyd. That guy could have been me. And only because they knew I was Dave Chappelle, is the only reason I think I'm alive. That was deep.
Yeah. No, that's
You know what I mean?
right.
That was really deep. Yeah.
Right there.
And I love the way Dave Chappelle was like, you know what? Don Lemon tried to throw me under the bus for not being more vocal, but it's time our celebrities get the hell out the way. I've had so much respect for that because I have so much respect for these kids and these children, and they're out there fighting for things that we were too bitch made. Sorry to say it, we were too bitch made to do half the things these kids are doing. And it's not just black kids, it's not just white kids.
Totally.
It's a culmination, and that's what I think is powerful. But at the same time, truth, there are a lot of like agent provocateurs, if you will, and you were at Occupy, so you know what I'm talking about. So I don't want to like this whole Black Lives Matter, because I talked to Natasha earlier. The premise of Black Lives is beautiful. Who doesn't want Black lives if you don't have half a conscience? Of course you're for Black lives. But when you get to the point where everyone's thrown into a terrorist group, it's not about Black Lives Matters anymore. And if you have white girls, people writing BLM, but at the end of the day, only people that have a black eye, pun intended, are people like me. And then people get to go back to their positions of comfort when I'm literally still going through it.
Well, let's unpack some of that, because I don't want to get to the point where we both say so much that we leave certain things in the air that, again, just people may or may not agree are reality. And, I can just tell we get it. Now, the question is, let's go back a second to some of that, right? Where we have a system where a Democrat trying to be vice president to Biden is not allowed to be vice president to Biden anymore, of course, first of all, because she's white in this climate, but also because, George Floyd, or the story of George Floyd, the blood is on her hands. You know what I mean? So we have systemic racism that's getting left out just because there is so much extremism, and I use that word intentionally because if we don't acknowledge extremism, we'll never really deal with it on both sides. There's so much extremism that you emotionally can feel easily compelled to get carried away in because everything is so fucking fucked. You know what I mean?
This is where I want to jump in real quick, because we're the both of you we didn't know each other back during the Occupy time.
No,
but
just meeting.
Well, just me, right?
Just meeting now. But both of you have participated in it separately. Yeah. And what I thought was interesting is from when that movement started, and it was there, and it was like, what's the agenda? No one really knew, but we knew that there was something provoking our interest and our consciousness for societal transformation. It was identified during that time period. And so we kind of speed up to today. I mean, have we seen since Occupy the type of progress that we would expect to see?
Right. I mean, only progress I may have seen from me,
or you would hope, or maybe you wouldn't expect.
But
yeah.
What did we or not? I mean, between the two of you, kind of coming from two different perspectives.
Red.
Well, take that first, Red, because I
mean, for me being in Zuccotti Park and walking around and seeing all those different types of people, it was everywhere. Everyone had this issue. I interviewed the fart smeller, some dude that literally goes around smelling his own farts, called the fart smeller. And I put up a video interviewing the guy. It was a joke, it was a fun video because we're just making levity of a serious situation. But it just let me know there are a lot of different people out there. There are a lot of celebrities out there. The girl Ketchup that was actually made it to Colbert show, I met her. She gave me the biggest hug as I was leaving that night. So I go home, I'm watching the Colbert show. I'm like, that's the girl I just met. So I know there's a lot of real people there, man. I know there are a lot of real issues, and I don't see the difference between Chaz, if you will, and Occupy people. It seems like the same traveling group of people. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, there's similarities and there's differences. For starters, I think people went to Occupy and stayed and went or whatever if they thought at that moment in time it wasn't necessarily dangerous. Like, I personally admit, not spending a ton of time on front lines of any of this stuff. You know what I mean? I went to Occupy as someone that was like, I already know the message is getting lost even at Occupy, because it was not willing to talk about our real system, aside from what we've always had as this sort of like, this is what's rolling forward, and if you're not the loudest person and potentially also the most objectified person in a space, what you think matters not so much. And I understand the reason why that can be. With Occupy, with BLM, with all of these things, we're literally socially, to some extent, forced to ask the question of, whoever is literally getting beaten in the hardest in the streets by hate, are they in charge now? Well, we don't put necessarily, black, transsexual people at the president. There's certain places where their voices are just allowed to reign because it's their space. And I get with that. But when that space is also the only option potentially for progress, otherwise you're not on the team and you're a bad person, and potentially, I get it, like whatever, alt-right or white or, supremacist or something.
I call it alt-racist at times, but I hear what you're saying, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I call it alt-white because it's a Nazi movement.
Yeah.
But there's people who are like, all right, well, we need to look at some of what's going on beyond just the perspective of, the most objectified person that is a extreme minority, and should the extreme minority then be in charge of everyone, and
let me jump here.
Go ahead, please.
Because one of your quotes, Truth, is we're united over nothing. I mean, it's a lyric in one of your, it's always resonated with me.
That's dope.
And we are classifying and identifying all these different types of people. And as you know from our conversations with Alex Gray, if we label something, it kind of creates, it polarizes.
Power. Yeah.
And it seems like there's a lot of this chop, 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 cutting everybody up.
Chop.
And it's like we're in a freaking chopped salad here. And, it's like, how are we going to get to the root of the systemic racism issue if everyone's so separated and polarized?
A lot of people don't.
That's a great point.
A lot of people don't want to go there.
Well, that's not us.
What you said earlier, I'm sorry to cut you off. What you said earlier about systematic oppression and racism and whatever.
Yeah.
Neely Jr. always says, if you don't understand white supremacy and how it works, everything you think you understand is just going to confuse you. So if you don't look at the system, how this America was formed, if you don't look at things like the Homestead Act, if you don't look at things like the racially oppressive GI Bill, which have kept out a lot of black soldiers, and let's be honest, black people have fought in every war this country's had, especially for their own freedom. So we can't just have a group of people be, okay, Lincoln freed the slaves, whatever that means, right? And then right after you did that, here comes the Homestead Act, bringing millions of acres of land given to New Europeans. Now you have the indentured slaves. I get it, there were white slaves. I get that whole narrative, but that was indentured servitude. And the Irish people were really cool with the black slaves. I get it. But there came to a point where the slave masters are 1%. They said, okay, we're going to make these guys the slave patrols. We're going to give you dominion over the runaway slaves. And the slave patrols turned into what? Your local police.
Yeah.
You have things like Planned Parenthood that was started by who? Margaret Sanger, right? And that's called the Negro Project. So I don't have a problem with abortion or people who feel they want an abortion, but when something started to depopulate me, as I talked with Natasha earlier, that's what I have an issue with. That's it.
Yeah, no, there's a very uniquely interesting alignment between the movement against the New World Order and what people would also call equality. And so it's really interesting that you have to. And I think, again, because we live in a country that when communism is attacking you in Hong Kong, you don't fly the British flag, you fly the American flag. Like, Hong Kong wants to be a fucking state.
Explain that to me.
Say again?
What does the Confederate flag have to do with northern states? When I saw those people protesting the shutdown.
Bro, it's about killing you.
Yeah.
That's all it's about. I went to the northernmost point, one of the northernmost points of America,
yes, sir.
and what you see is Confederate flags getting flown with Trump flags, getting flown with American flags, getting flown with whatever fucking flags they want, because again, they are at the place that the slaves haven't crawled up to yet. And
Thank
it's
you.
literally white supremacy.
Hey, so let's, hey, stop right there. Stop right there. So while we're heated in this part of the conversation,
Yes,
but Trek and I had discussed yesterday in preparing for this, we both know that the Republican Party
was started by the first 100. Thank you for saying that. The first 150 people who started the Republican Party, truth, were black men, black business owners, and they were pretty much and everyone talks about John Lewis. Oh, I drew blood in Selma. That guy, he was pretty much buck broken to become Democrat. So it's like I told Natasha, Martin Luther King was a Republican. Martin Luther King's father was a Republican, but black people, poor white people, certain brown people feel they need to be on this Democratic plantation. But what have they really done for us, really, but usurp all the benefits that we should have, and they have infighting. They created things like DACA.
Well, but I see people getting lost in this all the time, which is the idea that the party that became the whitest party, because there's no doubt about the fact that the Democrat base and and Democrats in general now are a more racially diverse party by about 1,000 billion %. And that's something that's called a fact. So I want to get to the place where, yes, we honor the fact that the Democratic Party and even the Democratic candidate right now are bigots. And that's a fact.
I mean, here's it. Let me cut you there real quick, full truth, and you go on, bro. Like, everyone wants to get mad at Trump. I think I wasn't even guilty of this at first. Oh, Trump's a racist. He's a racist. What president wasn't a racist? What president was a slave master? So why are we offended now? And I'd rather have my racism on a platter and know what to expect than have someone be fake, smiling in your face. When he said Kung Flu, maybe it wasn't the best joke, whatever to say, but I got it. You know what I mean? It was probably mean, probably unethical, but Trump is letting you know that he's reading those comment screens. He's reading what we're writing, bro. You know what I'm saying? He didn't make up Kung Flu, but he was cognizant of that.
Right. No, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
No, Trump is tweeting a lot of people.
A lot of stuff.
They're not always wrong. But I want to maybe quickly stab Trump in the fucking neck.
Don't say that too loud. Don't say that too loud, man.
No, yeah, don't. Come on, back up on that. I can't.
You don't get us shut down.
Bro.
I'm not Antifa. I hate Antifa.
I'm changing the topic right now.
Change the topic.
Now we're on this. Okay.
Hold on. I'm changing the topic. Let me change the topic.
Okay, true.
It's about understanding that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are the one-party duopoly, and meaningful change is not allowed in depending on what your perspective is about where you want to go. So the Republicans will always give you a little bit of what you want, and the Democrats will always give a little bit of what you want, but it'll neitherly backstab each other because it's the same beast getting controlled so that we can't do what we need to do.
I agree.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm seeing some. I don't know if I completely agree with you, but what I can say.
Right. No. I'm done.
Okay, cool. What I can say is that the Black Lives Matter donations, they seem to have been going to the DNC. And it doesn't appear that the disenfranchised communities that are most affected by these issues, it doesn't seem like the violence is going away. It seems like it's amplifying and increasing, and that's what I'm kind of concerned.
The violence increasing?
Yeah, the violence is definitely. We have children being killed in Chicago in the parks. A photographer that was covering.
Overall, I just want to go to the point that violence is down. Chicago is definitely the most violent fucking place in the United States of America, and it's in the black community, and getting a check from Black Lives Matter could be awesome. But I don't want to just get on board with the fact that everything that BLM is only Democratic fundraising, or that if it was, that would necessarily be like against the rules. You know what I mean? We're all free to start Rainbow, Super PAC and fucking raise money.
you know. So I want to just acknowledge the like Democrat George Soros, you know, side of that.
Deep state. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, what are you going to do? People are desperate for change. They're going
So
to take money from any billionaire giving them money.
yeah, so
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Trek, where you have a quote that I admire and I like that we mentioned in our stream, is people need food and water, not vigils.
Yeah, you have, like I said, Nat, I work with a lot of these nonprofit types. I've worked with a lot of musicians, from rap to death metal to all types of stuff. And when I see these local musicians more butthurt about not being able to play out or not being able to hang out in the bar, and they'll sidestep their own safety, they literally put out vigils. They'll pay honest money to put candles throughout a neighborhood. I'm like, you guys are wasting all your money on candles. There's a guy in Allentown. He ran for mayor, black dude. I'm not going to name his name. He ran for mayor. And he wanted to put out Jesus loves you signs all throughout the hood. And he put out this GoFundMe for like 10,000. I think he got like 5,000 or whatever. I called him. I was like, bro, I said, people don't need signs to tell them God loves them. People need jobs. People need infrastructure. People need a light at the end of the tunnel. You guys keep doing this feel good. I call it symbolic victories, if you will. But symbolic never win in real wars. You know what I'm saying, Truth? There's never going to win a war. Just because we feel good about it. What about what people, food, water, shelter? That's what people need.
Yeah.
And I give a lot of these people blowback, not because I think I'm God, but if they put themselves up there as community leaders, they got to act way more accordingly than a clown like me. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're far from a clown. You're far from a clown, by the way.
Well, you know what I'm saying that.
Because
you be clowning, but
I'll be clowning, but yeah.
It's interesting because look, we're all capable of finding any side of these issues and fighting about the specifics. And we're all more or less, you know, I think at the end of the day, when you meet someone and hosting these meetings, you know, you're able to be like, man, you know, doesn't it suck that there are these people that rule us? And usually it doesn't matter if they're called the president or have $1 billion or have $178 million or are called some other part of the like idolatry machine, you know? But we are like, yeah, but what are we going to do about reparations? Because it's like,
thank you for bringing that up.
Fucking do is
thank you for bringing that up, man.
Yeah. Brought this up, and I wanted to hit this. Is be like, yo, isn't it funny that everyone got $1,200 in reparations for the first time?
Everybody. Not if you owe child support. Not if you owe child support. Not if you owe student loan. It's like for the first time. It's like sorry to cut you off, Truth, but for the first time, it's like you can be too broke or because you didn't pay your bills, you can't get stimulus. That's like telling Ford Corporation, okay, Ford, you didn't pay your bills for the last 5 years. You're a deadbeat corporation, so you're too broke to be bailed out. Imagine that happening. But they'll tell an American citizen, oh, we're not going to give you money, even though you're literally going through COVID. There's no way for you to even get a job, but because you owe child support or you owe a student loan or you, whatever, these people don't get paid. That's not reason for people being out in the streets. Think about it. Imagine being too broke to get soup at a soup kitchen. Imagine that.
There's a million reasons to be in the streets. Here's the thing. If we don't start talking about the fact that when people wanted change, they got shot at by the police with a lot of arsenal. And if we don't start the conversation right at what is happening on a blood and tears and freedom level and all go into the specifics of solving these problems, we are idiots. And I'm noticing it happen because you have your Blue Lives Matter people, which are basically like, yo, go beat those motherfuckers in the streets, shoot them, I don't care, I love you. And you've got everybody else who, like, you know, 15 years ago or 25 years ago, it was only black people rioting, but now they're because it's anybody, they're beating and killing anybody. So you got a few or a bunch of white parents waking up to the fact that their hard-earned money and the black hard-earned money and the Mexican hard-earned money is all going into shooting us when we want change? Really? That's good to know.
That's not the complete truth of, I think, the whole perspective of it, because we have a private, I'm just talking about I want to get to the root because I'm done with the chopped salad. Okay. I see at the root of it, we have an industrial prison complex that is privatized, that has increased value in people's portfolios and their 401ks that they're not even aware of.
Right.
That the more people that are put in beds in these industrial prisons, the more revenue these companies make.
Correct.
And that is separate from how we typically handle our police departments and our prison departments, which is paid for by taxes.
Right.
So I got chills right now speaking about this right now, because I truly believe, and that I saw happening with Dick Cheney and Halliburton and at BlackRock. Previous to him even getting in office, in Florida, there was an issue with voting, as you remember, when Bush got in.
Okay.
Remember that? And it was like, what the hell was that? They got in and they stole that. Since then,
Gore,
election fraud has been an issue. And one of the biggest things I want to bring forth, yes, we have a systemic racism issue. It seems like people's emotions are being somewhat manipulated because there's a mix of good people protesting with bad people that are provocateurs.
Right.
That are confusing the whole entire point, you know, which is part of the chaos of manipulating people to submit, which is we don't want to do that. We want to maintain our freedoms and our ability to express ourselves, which is why we're going to show our friends with this stream how you have a discussion so that we can get somewhere.
Respectful.
Moving forward, we have an election coming up in obviously November, and we have Hillary Clinton going on trial in September.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
You know?
not necessarily trial. You have to, again, words mean things. Words mean things. So.
Well, that's why I have you on. You're a wordsmith.
Especially legalese. You're right, Truth. You're right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so drop it.
The point is that there is a very clear appearance and demanded subpoena testimony for Hillary Clinton on something that is not a trial yet. It seems to be a deposition based on a freedom of information request. So again, I'm the first person to be like, yo, she is a goddamn lizard and they're eating face in that video. And, you know, let's speak to what I do and don't know, which is I don't know for sure whether or not she's just old or a clone or got a pierced tongue, or I don't know anything about her really, you know? But what I know is, you know, is that we're seeing these trends occur at the same time as that we're seeing other things pop off on the exact same day. Yes. Yeah. Yes, super clutch, but at the same time too, why would we pretend for a second that anyone is surprised that Chauvin killed another person of color? You know what I mean? Even if he didn't, I'm willing to concede he didn't at that moment, but he is the face now of what we all know is real, which again is convenient if you're casting parts of a play, a passion play.
How do you feel about the way Chauvin killed Mr. Floyd? The same thing happened in Paris, I believe, 3 days later. I don't know if you know about that.
See, this is again gets into potential realities.
Okay.
I don't know if you can say for sure that that's what happened.
Okay.
But I can say for sure that it wasn't also just a cop putting his neck on a guy's throat in a photo that I've also seen. So I want to get into like the science of the magic, because yes, we did just see that, but are we taking that as fact too, just because it's next to a bunch of other facts and likelihoods at a time when we are rising, not only in the deep, you know, state, if you will, or acknowledgement of what's always been there, but also the deep fake. So are we about to watch a fake video of Hillary eating a child's face that was on the
deep web? You're talking about the dark web video.
Deep web lab, exactly. Yeah. We're seeing so many things get simultaneously created that I'll be the first person to be like, yo, I don't trust any of them. If you have a certain amount of money, it is very, very, very difficult for me to trust you because I'm watching people be on the streets with nothing. So
Yeah.
it's your version of saying it's okay. And then I'm guilty of that because I have a certain amount of money that's more than someone in the fucking world who doesn't,
Yeah.
you know?
The problem with America, bro, I was watching a video last night. I don't know why the hell I was even watching it about hunting, like hunting with air guns. I guess they were hunting bisons with air guns. And they're on this guy's land, really nice land. And the guy said, yeah, I have 500 acres. I'm thinking to myself, you have people literally dying on the streets in Orlando, LA, Philly. And this guy has 500 acres to himself. It's like, that's the problem. That, I mean, I'm not saying the guy didn't work hard for it. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve that land. But where's the, everybody wants to throw around this word equity. And when I called it out when I first heard that buzzword, no, I still can't get a concrete definition of what equity is, because all boats can't rise if you don't have a boat. Or this guy has a raft, or this guy can't spare the water, or this guy doesn't, you know what I'm saying? So that equity crap can miss me, you know what I mean? So
yeah, it misses a lot of us, and that's what
yeah, man.
Is about, is that like what we were talking about before.
We're being targeted, both you and me and everyone else is being targeted for a position in the game. And the position in the game that's conventional for me is like getting power in the Democratic Party. And the position that for you or for Natasha would be a theoretical appropriate lane to make change is like, what do you believe in? Do you think you could do it as a Republican or do it as a Democrat? And that's the trap. The trap is not having the third party of, because right now, for example, I feel a realistic look at the world might be like 40 or 30 or 27% of America would love to have Trump, and about the same, 25, 22, depending on population, would maybe like accept Biden. You know, I don't know the specific math, but what you get the feeling of is that everyone is easily pissed about something. You know what I mean? Like, how many people are going to be in Trump rallies in the next month and a half, 2 months, 3 months, if everybody's dying of COVID? I don't know. You know?
I mean, honestly, I think that the real focus should be like, how are we planning on protecting our elections? Because no matter what, if the plan is 4 years from now that we're going to open up the opportunities amongst our own communities.
Don't your elections because it's election fraud, electoral college. I mean, that's my advice. If you're thinking of protecting the election, you're thinking of keeping the exact same wheels on the bus. And
well
again,
said.
It's
I don't agree.
You don't agree in that? All right.
It's not to say that I don't think that we should have fairness and a vote, but we don't even have that. I'm from New York, living in California. Do you think California is ever going Republican? No. And there's a lot of people. So Oklahoma and Nebraska, every single man and woman and, voter fraud, every single one of those votes matters a lot more than who's in a blue state right now.
And that's, to me, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous because whether you're just seeing it from a bird's eye perspective, very big, just looking at the presidents and who's going to be in office, on a local level, having an opportunity to vote. I mean, those things actually make difference, because if you have a budget that can be created for homelessness or reducing prison budgets or creating an oversight committee to oversee what's going on, because the police, they have a union, that has been protecting them. And a lot of people that have made these mistakes over the years, they have not ever seen any consequence because they've been insulated. But that insulation also plays into how society ourselves, we're always being pacified by being told, we like to be told what we want to hear, and it's like
that symbolic victory crap. I get it. Yeah.
That's what it is. And I've never heard it portrayed better than the way that you put it. Let's raise money to put these signs up, so make everybody feel good.
It's like
the trophies, everyone gets a trophy, and that culture of that, and what we're going into moving forward, and where we're kind of, I think, having a couple issues, is capitalism going to be the way we go? It seems like it's like capitalism or it's going to be more socialism. And it seems like the Democrats have really adopted this philosophy of socialism being the way. And I don't know how that creates enough competition for the world to start, for our country at least, to be competitive and on top. We still want to be on top. I'm assuming all of you agree that we do still want to maintain our number one position.
But again, the differences of winning.
You like the puppy?
Yeah, the puppy is, it's great.
This is Ava. Look at Ava.
Hi,
She's so
Ava.
cute. She's that little teacup. Look at her. Little gremlin.
Let me quickly speak to that because I think that's a huge issue. And it's talking about the definition of words again. So when we say that like Bernie Sanders is a democratic socialist and a socialist, he's talking about spending the money differently and better. We already have socialism. Like the idea that government is somehow not a socialist institution is wrong and a joke. It is socialism.
Well, I think we could definitely, it's up for discussion because I still do believe that we are living in a republic.
Yes, we are living in a socialist republic. Exactly.
That's probably a better term for it, actually. And it has not been, that has not been presented, I don't think, to me yet. We just figured that out now.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
That's pretty smart, Truth.
Yeah.
It's word magic. It's understanding what's actually happening at a dollar and cent level. You have socialism already. It was exactly what happened when someone said, I'm going to go over there, I'm going to kill the Indian, I'm going to bring the black guy, and then I'm going to feed him. And then I'm going to give him a house. And if we don't understand government at the nomenclature level, we will never understand, or we will never overstand what we are actually even talking about.
Yeah, you got to understand the backstory. A lot of people don't even get the backstory that they
want to. We've all had government forever. What it means is, in this language, we have to go to a different language. We have to go to two. Government is from German, gubern, to rule, and Greek, meant mind. So all government means is mind control, the rules of the mind.
And that's what we're figuring out with the psyops and the counterintelligence.
And the media.
Did this happen? Did this happen in Paris or not? Was this pre-planned? Are these the same puppet masters that are, behind the scenes doing X, Y, and Z with warfare overseas that we're dealing with
through
now?
Simpsons, right? Like be predicted, all this crazy stuff being predicted in cartoons.
Let's talk about that for a second. Do you think Matt Groening has access to the plan or actually time travels?
I don't know. You can't be that smart.
It's one or the other. It's definitely.
You can't be that lucky, Truth.
Yeah. That's why like it's so easy for us to say right now, well, let's just go watch The Simpsons.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Might as well. I mean, there's what reason, not. Okay, so to close, this is the last question, so we can wrap it up because it might kind of. I don't know how far this is going to go. But
in an hour, whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the comments exploded on my page when I posted a picture of one girl kneeling and all the girls kneeling, one girl standing for the anthem.
Right.
I'm on the Allentown Flag Day board. I'm a member of the board of LVMAC, which is the Lehigh Valley Military Affairs Council.
Right.
I understand the power of taps and acknowledging the flag and understanding what it means, to have flags on the moon and to kind of, it means a lot to me and it means a lot to the people that have lost their loved ones.
Oh, yeah.
If they signed up their life to lay it down so that we're not bombed or taken over or whatever,
Right.
The kneeling during the anthem and the flag, I know there's a conversation about how Copernic was the one that started this. Now everybody's doing it. Yeah, now everyone's doing it, and I don't understand at this point what's going on with it. Are we acknowledging that there's a problem with our country by kneeling, or what are we doing?
That's the right answer, because there is a problem and people are taking this opportunity where everyone shuts up to yell with their bodies. There is a huge problem. I'm a sailor by, original schooling. So I understand all the legal ramifications, law of the sea, all of these things that create the flag, when she's sewing it. What does it mean? What are people going to use it as language to communicate? And it's very simple. Someone kneeling before the flag, or, to some other extent, raising their fist or raising up 2 fucking middle fingers, whatever, is exactly what that flag flies for. That's the point.
Let me piggyback on what he said in the chat before you get too offended. But when Colin Kaepernick knelt, he knelt for like over a year and a half. And I found this out from Tavis Smiley. And when the reporter finally asked him, "Hey man, what are you doing?" to commend Colin, he told the truth. And after that, all the demonization started. And to like back up Colin Kaepernick, a soldier told him Colin asked him, "What's the respectful way to do this whole protest thing?" He said, "Well, the respectful way to do it is to kneel." So Colin's just pretty much following what an actual veteran told him to do. So the people that get mad, he's anti-American, he's anti-flag. How could he be that if he actually went to a real veteran and asked him his advice?
And again, this gets into accurate history.
Yeah,
and
you get it.
History will show you that the kneeling is a attempt at being even more respectful while demonstrating, because the original demonstration was simply not standing. And so understanding that there has been an evolution with this is about understanding what it means to be an American. What does it mean?
Back on that truth real quick, bro, you just made me think of something. Like, okay, I'm with Colin Kaepernick for the most part, but I'm not with the whole Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, even Senator Jim Clyburn standing up there in African kente cloths trying to pander for votes. I mean, what the heck was that?
Exactly. And that's again where we can always find the details of this stuff.
And they were kneeling too.
Their fucking minds. Yeah. And again, notice how it went back to what are the white co-slave masters doing to make these people think they give a shit. Because I think everyone gives a shit a little bit, but they don't give enough of a shit.
Because they don't have to. They don't have to.
Well, they're getting paid somehow, and they're worth, millions and millions of dollars, and they're up there trying to tell us that, what we, I don't know. It's so confusing.
Let me just finish that one point about Nancy Pelosi. She is fucking vulnerable from the left right now. I forget the guy's name. He's an Indian guy. The point is that we need a version of what Trump was and is right, which is fucking throwing a goddamn bomb in this shit. And the other side of that is, okay, what are other, at least somewhat outsider voices willing to say right now? Because we heard it from, in my opinion, the extreme right with Trump, and now we need to hear it from the extreme left as well to get the fullness of this conversation. Because again, Trump talking to Biden isn't the hard right talking to the left or to the left center. Biden is fucking hard right with him. He's just done it in a different party.
They're the same, brother. Devil and Satan are the same. Yeah. Good point.
Yes, and so the double punch of pick your rapist, pedophile, pick your white supremacist from these two parties that do different things.
Right.
Way, it's the trap. It's
a joke. It's a complete joke. And I saw it funnier. When I really started investigating this whole thing, I was at the DNC convention when Bernie Sanders was slighted. Yeah. And I was like, wait, how is this possible? You're doing this on purpose. You know you're not going to win.
Right.
With Clinton, there's no way.
Right.
So it was completely planned out.
She had to cheat to win against Bernie. and I watched it happen, because when they said Hillary won California, I was like, yeah, Hillary won California, all right. No, it didn't.
The same way Bush won Florida,
Right.
Yeah, Bush won Florida the old-fashioned way of your dad picks.
Your dad judges pick who won.
So moving forward, this was an amazing conversation with you guys.
Yeah, I think so
had
too.
A feeling that there would be a lot of good
Yeah,
energy.
we didn't even touch Corona. 4% more on Corona. My phone's gonna die.
That'll be the next show, Truth. That'll be the next show.
All right. Deal.
Unless you want to keep it going, Natasha, it's up to you, hon.
We can do it. I think we should do a follow-up show where we can kind of go a little deeper.
Yeah.
Now that we know that this is a good vibe.
Definitely. Truth thought we're gonna be arguing. Remember?
He was ready. He went in here like,
he's ready to fight.
they're a bunch of Trumpsters.
Yeah.
All those Trumpsters. I mean, come on. I appreciate what the Trump has done.
Yeah,
like
you don't have to be a Trumper.
Putting mixing it all up and you know what I mean, like untying some of these knots and things. He's done a lot, I think.
I don't think Trump is perfect, but I think it's just too convenient for everyone to be turning on him now. And I think it's an agenda. And I think if Hillary Clinton would have won the election, I think this COVID-19 thing would have been way worse. And maybe I'm wrong about that, Truth, but I think that's why they're so mad at Trump now, because him being in there, talking about things like the deep state, talking about he drops certain things, he says certain things that this guy knows certain things, but he's not saying everything.
That's
what I appreciate about Trump.
At this point.
You know what I'm saying, bro? And I'm a dude from the hood.
Look at that for what it is. Trump was never not attacked by the left. When was Trump never not supported by the right? I mean, again, it gets back to fundamental realities of history, and I'm always down to talk about them. But again, no one in their right mind, this is my opinion, no one in their right mind trusts him to lead this country based on a lot of other things that have happened, that if you just simply look at, he is a fundamental risk to everyone's safety, the same way, but even more dramatically than Hillary Clinton would be or Obama would be, because again, it's not about Trump. I personally believe he's, about as bad as it gets on certain issues I care a lot about. Now, on other issues I care a lot about, Trump isn't the worst.
Okay, sorry.
It's enjoyable.
You guys are the best. This was so much fun. If you guys want to do a Thursday show next week,
definitely.
Same time.
I'll be around.
And we can maybe bump it up so that if we want to stream it, because we just figured out how to do that.
We need a name for it though, Natasha. We need to call it With All Due Respect. How about that?
With all due respect. I like that.
For next conversation, we will go over COVID, and we will go over defunding the media.
Okay. Yeah, I heard about that.
Or at least figuring it, because like all these advertisers pulling the puppet strings.
Yeah. Definitely.
Take a pill to solve your problems.
Right. Right. We can talk about big pharma too. We talk about a lot of things.
So we have a lot to cover. If you guys want to do it at the same time next week, I'll put it out there, and I'll get the recording and I'll push it over. We'll post it. I think it was a great conversation. If somebody's going to listen on the radio, yeah. So great job, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for thinking about it.
If people want to follow you, Trek, you're doing the Red Bokeh.
Red Bokeh Society, Occupy Black Wall Street. That's on YouTube. Imantrek, IMANTREK, on Instagram and Twitter. So I'm pretty easy to find. Just Google Trek like Star Trek, Red Bokeh, BOKEH, and you should find everything I have up there thus far.
Awesome. Yeah, I got you on Facebook now, and
yes, sir.
Tasha got you.
What about you? How do people get? Do you know?
Yeah, you.
At Truth Now Music. At Truth Now Music.
And then me, NatashaPellick.com. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This is our first podcast with friends of mine that have beautiful ideas, and we're going to be putting it forth out into the world, hopefully on a weekly basis. And we'll see you next Thursday at lunch.